Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Crimes. I'm your host, Tyler Graf von Rebick, and today we're going to be reading about Bela Kiss, the vampire of Cinkota, which is Cinkota. It's a Hungarian town. So, I just want to tell everyone thank you for checking out my first video, the Pedro Pablo Nicata Ludinha. That was actually really good. I'm glad everybody checked it out and liked it. Those of you who did like it. I also forgot to say, if you would, please like and subscribe to this channel. It would be really helpful, and it would help me figure out which case to take on next. I like to take on the crimes that aren't well known, like this Bela Kiss guy. He doesn't usually show up on very many people's radar. Like, you don't really see documentaries about him, is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of people have been asking me, like, Tyler, why do you put so much sugar in your coffee? Well, you know what? I like my coffee being sweet, okay? And yeah, I know I put way too much sugar in it, probably not enough. And honestly, I mean, Folgers coffee is good. I mean, yes, I like a little coffee. I like a little coffee with my sugar. Exactly. But that's where we're at. All right. Also, I switched to using a phone rather than writing down pieces of paper because, for one thing, I have arthritis in my wrists, so it's easier for me to just read off of a phone rather than, writing with my wrist with a piece of paper and a pencil. I mean, I wrote books for practically all my life, and I never wrote them by hand. I always used a computer. So I'm just more technologically savvy when it comes to that kind of thing. And again, I'm drinking classic roast Folgers. So okay. Childhood. Bela Kiss was born in Iszak, Austria-Hungary, to János Kiss and Verona Varga. A lot of people are familiar with Hungary. János, I believe, is John or George. János. János. Yeah, that's John. And Verona, it's, other than being a city in Shakespeare's Italy, I don't really know what the name Verona means. Moving on. Not much is known about his early life other than accounts of neighbors and family friends. It is believed, according to some sources, that at a young age, it's believed that Kiss might have had an incestuous relationship with his mother. We don't really know we don't really know anything about his childhood. I mean, we don't know, what he did as a child. We don't know when he rode his first bike, when he learned how to walk, what his first words were. But we have a pretty good idea that he used to bone his mom. There you go. That's great. That's great. Apparently history only remembers the bad things, unless this is a case of making him look really bad. In which case, maybe he was never incestuous with his mother, and I'm sorry to his memory. Well, I'm not sorry to his memory. He was a murderer, but anyways. Growing up, he became a tinsmith. He lived in Cinkota, which was then a town near Budapest, which now it's in the neighborhood within the city itself. Oh, it went from being a town to a suburb. Very nice. He moved there in 1900 and lived on for most of his life. He was an amateur astrologer who was allegedly fond of the occult and satanic practices. All right, fun guy. Kiss was married and had two children, Aranka and Ilonka. In 1912, Kiss married. I guess he got divorced. In 1912, Kiss married a young woman, 15 years his junior, named 15 years younger than him. Wait, so yeah, 15 years his junior, named Marie. But shortly after, she began an affair with a young artist named Bikari, and the two ran away. Poor guy. Crimes. These two lovers, Marie and Bakari, became Kisha's first victims when they disappeared that same year in 1912. Oh. Bela tried to explain the disappearance of his ex-wife by claiming that Marie had run off with Bakari to America, although in reality it's believed that he had strangled both of them to death with either a piece of rope or his bare hand. Which was it? A rope or his bare hands? Well, I guess if he was a tinsmith, he was a pretty strong guy, so either way, it really wouldn't have mattered. But in 1912, the same year, Kish hired a housekeeper named Mrs. Jakubek. Jakubec. I'm so sorry, Hungarians. I don't speak Hungarian. After his wife had reportedly abandoned him. Reportedly abandoned him. We know what happened there. Jakubek, the housekeeper, noticed that Kish corresponded with quite a number of women. Usually it was through advertisements that he would place in his newspapers, offering his services as either a matrimonial agent or a fortune teller. All right, that seems kind of on the same track. I mean, he's either working as a shadkin, so for everyone that doesn't speak Yiddish, shadkin as a matchmaker. From like Fiddler on the Roof, matchmaker, make me a match. Don't own the copyright on that song, so I'm not going to keep singing it. Or a fortune teller, yeah. Well, I don't know if I can find you a husband, but let me look in the crystal ball and see what I can find. And sometimes he brought the women individually to his home. However, his housekeeper had little to no contact with said women. Uh-oh. Kish was never on intimate terms with his neighbors, even though he was well liked. I guess they only knew him from afar, and that's why they liked him. I guess it's like saying, "Oh, the nice man down the road and stuff." He always waves at me and stuff, so I like him pretty good. And then you meet him in person; he's a horrible freaking person, kind of guy that wears socks with sandals or something. I'm sorry that I'm gonna go off track. I don't like socks with sandals. People wear socks with sandals all the time, and it's just I immediately just can't stand it. It just drives me crazy. Townsfolk also noticed that Kish had started collecting a number of metal drums. When pressed for information by the police, Kish responded by saying that he had filled them with gasoline in order to prepare for the rationing in the oncoming war. Oh yeah, this is 1912. Yeah, this is 1914. Okay, so this is World War One. Okay, all right. Oh, well, I can identify with that. I mean, if I'd known gas was going to be so expensive, I live in America, by the way, everyone. But if I'd known gas was going to be so expensive, I probably would have started rationing it in barrels. Something tells me this is not what he's doing with these barrels, but that's part of the mystery. Kish continued corresponding with lonely women, but this time, after defrauding them of all their money, he would lure them to his house under false pretenses, so that he could strangle the women to death with either a rope or his bare hands. Okay, so, ow, wow. When World War I began in 1914, Kish was conscripted into the Hungarian army and left his house in Jakubek's care. I'm going to settle with Jakubek because I'm assuming that's the correct pronunciation. With his victims' bodies, Kish sought to preserve the bodies of his victims by pickling the said victims in large steel drums that he would fill with wood alcohol, also known as methanol. Uh-oh. Well, from what I know about methanol, is you should never drink it. Wood alcohol, you go blind after like barely a sip, from what I hear. I don't make moonshine, but that's from what I've heard and stuff. I mean, the rolling hills have some stories. Apparently, he would also drain the blood from the necks of his victims, earning him the moniker the Vampire of Cinkota. That's it's awful. That's horrible. Vampire of Cinkota. And his name was Bela too and stuff. He was Hungarian. And we know of one Bela that was a great vampire, Bela Lugosi, Count Dracula, 1931 or 33, 31, 31. Todd Browning's Dracula, Universal Pictures. And he replied, and contrary to popular belief, he only reprised that role one time, and that was in Abbott and Costello. I think it was Meet the Monsters. Yeah, or Meet the Wolfman. No, it wasn't Meet the Wolfman. It was Meet the Monsters. Abbott and Costello, Meet the Monsters. Anyways, none of the murders came to light until years later. In 1914, Kish had marched off and was had marched off and was back into the war. 2 years after his departure, rumors had begun to circulate that he'd either been killed or captured while fighting in the Carpathian Mountains. Believing the rumors to be true, Miss Jakubek decided to clear out his house and put in a new tenant. It was then that, as the landlord of the house chose to check inside the large drums, when he cracked open the first drum, the landlord was immediately overwhelmed with the smell of a decomposed body. Oh. Even soaked, even pickled, I would not imagine what that smells like. I imagine that would smell awful. Horrified, the landlord quickly summoned the constable, who opened up all the drums to uncover 24 pickled corpses. I'm sorry, I don't know what, I can't smell, but I imagine that the smell of a pickled body must just be awful. I mean, once the methanol alcohol smell wears off, I can only imagine just how putrid that, and even with the methanol in it, I couldn't even imagine how horrible that was. Escape and sightings. The search for Kish started immediately, which proved rather difficult due to the large mess that World War I had created in Europe. It was believed that he had been found in a field hospital in Serbia. However, as the police showed up, they discovered that Kish had substituted a deceased soldier's body with his own, in place of his own, and left with the man's identification. He was reportedly cited numerous times in the following years. Several different rumors circulated as to his actual fate, including one that he had been in prison for burglary in Romania, or that he had died of yellow fever whilst living in Turkey. In 1920, a soldier in the French Foreign Legion reported on another legionnaire, whose name was Hoffman, the name Kish had used in some of his letters. Uh-oh. How Hoffman had boasted at how good he was using a garrote, that's like piano wire, strangle, you probably already knew that, and who fit Kish's general description. Hoffman, however, had deserted before the police could reach him. Oh, I'll bet he was Hoffman. I'll bet he was Hoffman. Yeah, I'm serious. I bet he was Hoffman. The last known supposed sighting occurred in New York City in 1932. That year, a homicide detective by the name of Henry Oswald was rather certain that he had observed Kish emerging from the New York City subway at Times Square, Manhattan. There were also rumors that Kish was living in the city and working as a janitor, although these could not be verified, and when the police went to interview said janitor, he had already quit. Kish's eventual fate and exact number of victims remains unknown. So he got away with it? Oh. I can't imagine that, this guy is living in this small town and he's killing 20-something people, and, well, I guess it's not a small town, he lives in a big city, but he's in a small town, part of this big city, so, and, he's pickling these bodies and everything. I mean, surely there were witnesses. I mean, hopefully. Notes. Bela Kiss is often cited as the vampire of Cinkota due to his draining the blood of his victims. He is also sometimes included in lists of Hungarian serial killers, including the supposed vampire Countess Erzsébet Báthory. Ah, yes, the Countess Báthory, the one I remember listening to a video about her. Supposedly, rumors that she would hang women upside down, slit their throat, and bathe in their blood, so she would maintain her charm and beauty. Which, I mean, personally, I think developing staph and having your face rot off would probably be a lot worse. And that's usually what you get when you bathe in something, when you come in contact with blood, bacteria, anyways. The exact number of victims is unknown. The amount of bodies found was 24. However, Kiss was known to have corresponded with 75 plus different women, some of whom were never seen again. Ugh. All right, this is dark. This has been a short episode. Bela Kiss really doesn't show up in very many different places. I did research, couldn't really find anything about him. At least not enough to. I mean, I found enough to write a good account, like a good article, I guess, but not really enough to like put together a whole 20 episode miniseries on him or anything like that. Which couldn't really do that anyways. Found out recently that until I get my computer up and running and stuff, these phones and stuff only hold a certain amount of time for the videos, and it's like, yeah. But soon we'll be coming back with even more longer episodes and stuff. Next episode will be on Dean Corll, the Candyman of Houston. I don't know if in my last episode I said that we would be doing that next, and we planned to, but the videos was too long and it was dark, and I had to take a mental health day after reading it because, ugh. But anyways, this has been Coffee and Crimes. I've been your host, Tyler, and I look forward to seeing you come back. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. See ya.